Okay, so we're still in the middle of Parak Yatet. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is the second longest parak of the Sefer. We still have plenty to go in this parak. Say another few weeks for sure. We're discussing different, I guess, avenues in which to define Hasidus, in which areas that a person serves Hashem through Hasidus. And we discussed the first one, which was the whole Hasidus b'machshava, of thinking, having certain kavanah and pure intention for the sake of serving Hashem. I'm not gonna elaborate more than that for now, but that was b'machshava. Now he continues as follows: the second avenue of serving Hashem through the midah and achieving the midah of Hasidus is through the realm of Asiyah, through action. And even within action, it can be broken down into two primary categories. There are many, many details that apply to these things. The two primary ways of serving Hashem through actions are Yira and Ahava. These are things that are so fundamental in terms of our service for Hashem, in terms of what goes behind our actions that we're going to be doing, that you can't be an Eved Hashem without them. They are essential, right? Imagine removing one. Imagine a person just serving out of Ahava. So you love Hashem, right? There are many people that love Hashem, except they don't keep Shabbos or Kashrus because, it's fine. But I love Hashem. Hashem's the best, right? And then imagine someone who has tremendous Yirah Shamayim, but they have zero Ahava. There's no love. There's no positive emotion whatsoever. It's just all out of fear. There's different types of fear, which we'll discuss, but all out of fear. You can't live like that. He continues and he says, "B'chlal hayira yesh ha'achna milafanav yispara." When it comes to yira, so it's about being submissive before Hashem. Haboshes b'krov el avodaso, that it has to do with also a certain level of embarrassment. If you think about it a lot, we're going to be discussing either he'll use explicit examples or I'll state examples, even if he doesn't say them, regarding thinking about a person going before a king. So imagine a certain level of, right, if you think about just going to your CEO, you probably will never do that. If you're in a big company, but imagine you're in a big company and trying to knock on the CEO's door because you have to ask them a huge favor. Obviously, you wouldn't practically, you'd go up the pain, but let's say you go straight to the CEO. You'd be embarrassed to speak to him, who am I? In a certain sense, that's the way we should feel towards approaching Hashem through Yira. And the honor of serving and the honor we give Hashem through achieving, fulfilling the mitzvos and the Torah that Hashem gave us. But that's all even within the realm of Yira. That he says that whereas the footnote here says whereas honoring Hashem and anything associated with him is a behavior that stems from this fear. B'chlal ha'ava hasimcha, and now so that's Yiras. Now Ava is for the simcha, dveikus, kina, nevar echad echad. Ava, right? It's about the joy, the excitement, the closeness, and the zealousness, as defined here. And he says, now I'm going to go one by one to discuss this, right? Mesilat Yesharim is very much Keseder and very organized. So he does that one by one. So he says, Hine ikar hayira hi yiras haromimas. Shetarch adam lashav odom ispal o osem mitzvah. that the highest level, the highest form is what's called yiras haromos, exalted yira. And this is something that a person should have in mind, or should approach mitzvos through the prism of when they're davening, when they're performing mitzvahs, through yiras haromos. Yiras haromos means that I'm not doing. Let me explain the opposite first for a second, and then it'll help. Yiras ha'onesh is the other one. I'll say it's not the opposite person, but it's the other category of yira. Yiras ha'onesh is I'm serving you because I don't want to get punished. I'm going to keep the law and not to be on the highway because I don't want it ticking. It's not that, oh, I think it's so important to be a model citizen. You have to be safe. And I just don't want to take it. I'd go 95 if I could, right? I'm a safe driver. I'll be okay, right? So that's Yeres HaRomos that's Yeres HaOnesh, right? Is like, I want to serve Hashem because I don't want to go to hell. I don't want to go to Gehenna. With Yeres HaOnesh. Yeres HaRomos is having a certain awe and recognition of just how awesome and how great Hashem is, that and how nothing I am, that I have to serve Hashem. Like, look how great Hashem, how awesome Hashem is. That's exalted here, the higher level. The person should think of when they daven and do mitzvahs. That this is when we're standing before Hashem, we're davening, we're performing a maisa. Humashe hizir Tana, this is that which the Tana says. That when you daven, you should know before whom you stand, right? On top of many arons and shuls, you say Daleth Nemiat HaOmer. Know before whom you stand. Realize, look who I'm in front of. The footnote here pointed out that the Ramchal is going to be using this example of tefillah, even though it actually applies to all things. But tefillah is something that one of the main components of tefillah is knowing they're standing before Hashem, and it's like part and parcel of the mitzvah itself. It says v'hine. A person, right, it almost seems like Pirkei Avos, right? 3 things. Think about these 3 things in order to achieve and attain this level of yira. Echad, the first, to omen mamash ifnei habori espashmo, no saying nimo. The first is that you're mamish standing in front of Hashem, and you're having a conversation with Him. You're speaking to Him, you're conversing with Him, right? And of course, and He's going to say, it's a tough thing. He says right now, you can't see Hashem, and by the mere fact that we can't see Hashem, makes it that much more challenging to grow in our understanding and recognition that Hashem is constantly in front of us all the time. It says V'tira, Kizel hayoser kasha is very difficult. To have really like a perfect picture. Our senses don't help this, right? We want to imagine a person, think of an old man. That's what we think, right? We're physical people. We think of physical things. So how can we imagine someone who doesn't have a physical body standing in front of us, being in front of us at all time? That someone who's a thinking person, who has their head on straight, is able, at least a little bit, to focus and to put his heart to properly have a true perception of what this is. The fact and how this, I believe, actually, and the fact that we are literally communicating with Hashem. The fact that Hashem is in front of us is the first step, and the fact that we are speaking to Hashem. Before Hashem, we're saying tachanunim, supplications, and from Hashem we're making requests. Hashem, please give me this. Please heal this person. right? We show a certain dependency. Is an important word of tefillah. A component of tefillah is dependency. Because Hashem hears us. And Hashem is able, certainly Hashem pays attention, not just hears us, but pays attention to what we say. Just as when we are speaking to each other face to face, we're listening, we're focused. I see you. It happens to be, and I'm not giving you most. I understand for various reasons you wanting to have your cameras off. But as a teacher, like I do this in Kushner, I Zoom not so often, but unfortunately I have to be home sometimes. The kids are at home sometimes. So when you're teaching to a black screen, like I mamish know you're there, and I mamish know you're listening, but even the lack of vision, the ability not to see, right, to have a phone call instead of a Zoom. You have a phone call versus seeing someone in person, it's a world's difference. So imagine though, not being able to see or hear a person ever, right? To not know. So person should have a certain seichel to realize that no, it's mamish like you have to try to be on the level of recognizing that it's like you speaking to someone in person. That's you davening to Hashem. It says the achar, shikva zebedaito. And after you realize this, after you realize yikva, like after kind of like you grained it in your mind to be certain and to always be cognizant, to be cognizant certainly when you're davening, that Hashem's right in front of you. You're speaking to Hashem and He's listening to you. Then you need to think that how exalted Hashem is, right? It's not just, right? Imagine I'll go to the company. I know I said I was going to use the king examples for a while, but I kind of like the company examples better, right? Imagine, let's say there's something that's frustrating you at your company. And I'll just use an example. In my school, like the photocopy machine is not great. I had to walk to the other side of the building to make photocopies. So imagine, let's say I'm speaking to someone, I never seen this guy before. And I start speaking to him and I said, no, it's a little frustrating. Like we have a difficult job, pandemic, and the little free time we have. So I have to still do some work in school and make photocopies. And I wish the photocopy machine worked. It's just so unreliable. And I think I'm venting for a colleague, right? Someone who I just see in the elevator or on lunch at line. And imagine the difference if I were to find out that that person is the CEO and that 3 days later, every photocopy machine in the entire company was replaced, right? Because when you realize who you're speaking to, you have a greater level of yira and a greater appreciation for what the person could do. I think I'm speaking to a colleague, yes, I'll vent. He can't do anything. But if you recognize the Roman was like saying, after you realize that, like you're standing from Hashem, you communicate with Hashem, realize who Hashem is. This is what Hashem could do. Hashem is beyond any bracha or prayer that we could give him. Hashem is beyond that. There's a Gemara that discusses the bracha of Shmon Esrei. Someone said, like, this is all we're giving Hashem. That's all we're saying. Yeah, that's all we give him. Let's add on some more. All the Anshe Knesset goal established, and so they responded, like, yeah, so what would you add on? And it's like, oh, so that's it? So now you're limiting Hashem? And once we have the established text, which includes everything I could, you can't add on. Because if you add on, you're actually detracting. So you're saying, oh, so Hashem's only this. Hashem's everything. We can't comprehend Hashem, and no tefillah or bracha is really does due diligence to who Hashem actually is. That we mamish can't fathom Hashem. Meaning, as much as we have to try our best to recognize the Romanus of Hashem, also recognize that you can never actually understand Hashem's Romanus. Just to give like a small example, I remember learning, someone said Rav Soloveitchik, in explaining the pasuk Shema Yisrael Shem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. When it comes to the word Echad, I think the typical stam das that people probably have is Hashem, the one and only God. Right? I think the Siddur says, if I'm not mistaken, the English translation is Hashem is one. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem's our God, Hashem is one. Meaning one and not two, one and not three. So Soloveitchik says, no, that's not what it is. Not about being a monotheist. That's not what we're saying here. What we're saying here is that Hashem is literally oneness. Hashem is everything. Hashem is mamish, the only thing that exists. Everything is Hashem. Like a wild idea. If you didn't say Shema yet, or say Kriya Shema Lamita, think Hashem again, Hashem's our God, Hashem Echad, Echad, right? Hashem is mamish everything. We can't, it's not Hashem's one, not two, Hashem is mamish one. Here, so it's the recognition that we can't even understand. We can't grasp Hashem's greatness. V'od, tzar she'esponin al shiflos ha'adam u'fichisuso. When it comes to thinking and recognizing that we stand before Hashem and look how great Hashem is and the year we should have towards Hashem, it has to be parallel to recognizing our weakness, our inferiority, and like our lowliness. Because if we think, oh yeah, Hashem's great, I'm pretty good myself. Look at me. Look what I could accomplish. I believe it's the Gemara that says that like one of the worst things is gaiva. When it comes to gaiva, so it says that like Hashem and you can't exist. It's like, how could you both exist? Like, you think you could do everything, but Hashem could do everything. Who's gonna win in your mind? Like, look what I could accomplish. So a person has to have shiftless. A person has to have a certain level of humility and lowliness to recognize just really like who we are, how small we are. Even comparing to man, like think about whatever hobby you have, whether it's basketball, chess, anything, not much anything. And think about like the person who's number one in the world at that. So if you were to play grandmaster in chess, get destroyed in a few moves. No matter how good you think you are, you think you did great in Yeshiva League, or you think you're all that Ellie in D3 YU. So imagine if LeBron took one-on-one any of the YU players. It would just not be close. Not be close. No offense to Shiur University basketball. But I think we all recognize that, right? That when you see greatness, it's like, yeah, who am I? Like, I'm a nothing. Like, literally, they're going to jump over me and dunk on me, and destroy me. And so Lahavdil, like, if that's who we are compared to another person, compared to Hashem, who mamish does everything, like we're mamish, so nothing. So now let's read it inside. So a person has to recognize their lowliness. In terms of our physicality, our coarseness, that like look at we're physical people. I'm here and I'm not there. Like, Hashem's mamish everywhere. And certainly when it comes to the amount of sins that we've unfortunately committed since we've been born. Because it should be impossible, if you're thinking about this, to not tremble when you're speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When a person is mentioned the name of Hashem, when a person is attempting to appease Hashem, to find favor in Hashem's eyes, to ask Hashem for things. Who Masha Amar Kasuf is that which David HaMelech said. Ibdu, we normally think the song Ibdu Hashem B'Simcha, but there's also a pasuk. Ibdu Es Hashem B'Yira, B'Gilu B'Irada. A person should serve Hashem with fear and rejoice before Him in trembling. right? That a person should serve Hashem at a Yira. Yira is not a bad thing. And here the footnote quotes from the Torah. So that Torah writes that before davening, halacha, it says the Torah, before a person davens to Hashem, a person should visualize themselves going before a king of flesh and blood, Melech Basar V'Dam, and imagine just how you would feel. And he says, and then think, alachas kama v'kama, how much greater the trembling you should have if you're standing before Hashem. And he continues with quoting another pasuk, Siv, Kel narat v'sod kedoshim rabba v'nara al kol svivav. Hashem is someone who's dreaded in the great council of the malachim, and he's awesome over all who surround him. Even comparing him to Hashem, not comparing, but looking at Hashem in comparison to the angels. The al kol eila, with all this, all right, I feel like I skipped a line. Not here. Oh, I know what happened. Yes, I see what happened. There we are. The malachim are a lot closer to Hashem than us. They don't have a physical body. They're able to relate to Hashem on a much higher level than us. And so, and because of that, since the malachim don't have a physical body, they actually are able to have a greater understanding of Hashem, and by nature have a greater recognition of the greatness of Hashem. Therefore, their praise of Hashem is greater than our praise, because they recognize who Hashem really is, more than us. For their Yira is greater than humans. David HaMelech said, you know what? Human beings could achieve high levels too. David HaMelech said, I bow before your courtyard, Hashem, in Yira. It's also written, for he who was humbled before the name of Hashem. And the Omer, it says in Ezra, Elokai boshti menachlamti laharim Elokai panai lacha. Hashem, I'm embarrassed to lift up my face before you. Ezra footnote explains that Ezra was embarrassed on behalf of Klal Yisrael, not in terms of himself, but they just feel in such a low state, felt embarrassed to go to Hashem. So as we saw earlier, busha is actually a component of yira, to feel embarrassed. Who am I to speak to you? As you're oppressed of you. We'll do one more paragraph. So this is actually going to be something that is contrary to what we saw earlier by actions. When it came to performing mitzvahs, we had a concept that a person, even if a person's not into it, go do mitzvahs, and hopefully you'll get into it. Right? Chabad's all about it. Shake this little nesha, put on tefillin, light the menorah. Hopefully it'll light a spark in you, and therefore you're going to want to do more. Right? So we have the externals first sometimes, and then the internal. When it comes to Yira Shemayim, it's around Shemayim Yira, it has to be internal first, and then it will lead to a certain trepidation on the external. So he says, Ve'ulam, when it comes to Yira, it needs to be strengthened in your heart first. And afterwards, you'll see it. That's when it will come to affect your body. And it gives examples of what are physical manifestations of Yira. What do they look like? So heaviness of one's head in terms of bowing down. Having shiflos hayinayim, to lower one's eyes, right? To not look up, to keep one's eyes looking down a little bit. Uchfifas hayadayim, and to hold one's hands over in a certain level of humility. Ke'eved katan l'fnei melech rav, is a small, simple, nothing servant standing in front of a chashiv king. Chein amru b'Gemara, and says in the Gemara, Rava pachar yedei u'mtzalei, Amar Kavda coming. Rabbi said he would put his hands together and daven, and he said it has to be like a servant before a master. And with that, so we have certainly more to discuss on Yira, but obviously this is something, I know that some of the levels we've been discussing in terms of like pre-show, certain things are extremely exalted. Not that this isn't exalted. There's something that we should have in our lives and something that is more attainable and close to home, hopefully, for us. And Hashem, we'll continue more next week.